welcome to Bake Through Lent. I'm Rhianne, I'm one of the ordinands at St Barnabas Church, and that means that I'm just training to be a vicar. But I'm really excited to be doing this with you this Lent season. And what we're going to be doing is we're going to be looking at Holy Week. And as we go out throughout the weeks in Lent, we're going to bake a delicious treat to remind us of a part of Holy Week as we go along. So this week we are looking at Palm Sunday, and we are going to be making gingerbread men. You hopefully will have the list of ingredients and the method. I'll post in the link below. But to start off, we're going to take our butter. So here I have got 100 grams of butter. You're going to need to do this with an adult because we're going to be using a hob to melt down our butter. So we're going to melt our butter like this. Okay. And you want to make sure that's all nice and melted. Okay, and once your butter is all nice and melted, you're going to take your brown sugar. Now you need 175 grams of brown sugar. It can be light or dark, that's completely up to you. That's going to go in. I'm going to give that a good mix around. It smells wonderful. And to the sugar and butter mixture, we're also going to add 4 tablespoons of golden syrup. Can you see that? That's lovely. Look at that colour. Wonderful. So that's all just going to pop in. And here's a top tip for when you're weighing out your golden syrup. If you coat your measuring spoon in a tiny, tiny bit of olive oil, then when you put the golden syrup in it, it doesn't stick to the sides and you get the best measurement. So we're going to mix all that in, and we're going to keep it on a very low heat, and we want to combine that until it's smooth. Okay, my buttery, golden syrupy, sugary mixture has all come together and it's all nice and smooth and melted in. And what I'm going to do now is set it to one side so it can cool down, and we're going to work on our dry ingredients. I've got a nice big mixing bowl, I've got my sieve, and in this bowl I've got 350 grams of plain flour, and we're just going to pop that in. In it goes. Boop, brilliant. Set that to one side. I have got a teaspoon of bicarbonate of soda. Now sometimes you'll see this in recipes referred to as baking soda, and it's the same thing. So bicarbonate of soda and baking soda are the same thing. Baking powder is a very different thing, but we'll pop that in. Boop. Excellent. Okay, and finally I've got here a tablespoon of cinnamon, if you can see that there, and a tablespoon of ginger. I like my gingerbread to be quite nice and fiery, but you can adjust that as you want. You can put more in, or you can put a little bit less in, depending on what your family's tastes are. So that's what's going to go in. Beautiful. Okay. And you're going to give that a nice big sieve, a sift into your mixing bowl. And it goes. Excellent. Oh, and it does smell amazing. Now you might get some lumps of spice in the bottom. If you just take the back of your spoon, give that a little press down like that, then you can get the rest of that lovely spice into your mixture. Excellent. Let's set that to one side. Okay then, so here we go. We've got our combined ingredients all nice and ready. So to that, we are going to add 1 egg, and I'm going to lightly beat it. Just a little bit. You can use a fork or a spoon, or I'm just using my little plastic spatula like this. Just give it a little bit of a mix. Beautiful, in it goes. Okay, and once it's broken up, you can pop that into your dry ingredients. Boop, 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 boop. There we go. In it goes. Get out all that last little bit of the lovely egg. Fantastic. Okay, and then you're going to give it a mix. Don't worry, this won't come together yet, but when our buttery mixture has cooled down slightly, we're going to add it in as well. So give that a stir around. It won't form a dough yet. So I've got my dry ingredients with my egg mixed in here, and in here I've got my buttery, sugary, golden, syrupy, beautiful mixture. It smells amazing. I've left it to cool down for a few minutes just so it's not piping hot. I'm just going to pour it in. Let's pour it in. Do get an adult to help you with this because it is still quite hot. In that goes. Can you see? It's beautiful. Wow. Excellent. Now you need to mix it. I'd recommend mixing this with a spoon first until it sort of comes together and it's all cooled down a bit, and then you can go in with your hands. Now, as always with cooking, it's really important to have clean hands. I washed my hands before I started cooking, and I'm going to do so again now, just before I get my hands in there and knead it into a dough. But make sure you've got really, really clean hands. Okay, so I've been stirring my mixture just to bring it together with a spoon, just while it's still a little bit warm, but now it's time to get our hands in. So this is what mine looks like at the moment. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to sprinkle some flour on my board. Do it from a nice height like this. It's great getting a bit messy when you're cooking. And we're going to pour out our dough just straight onto this flour. Looks delicious. I love gingerbread. I make it a lot with my kids at home, especially at Christmas time, but it's also great for Easter as well. Okay, so I've got my mixture onto my floured surface. I'm just going to bring it together to form a dough. I don't want to overwork it too much, otherwise we'll get really, really tough gingerbread. This does smell wonderful. And if you think that you need to add a little bit more flour, you can just sprinkle it again. Boop. Okay, now I've got my wonderful gingerbread there and it's ready to roll. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to make sure my surface is really, really well floured. So I'm just going to set my beautiful dough to one side for a minute. Get plenty of flour onto this surface because I don't want my gingerbread men to be sticking. Excellent. Bring my dough back, pat it down a bit so you have a bit of a square. And I'm going to flour the top of my gingerbread as well to stop my rolling pin from sticking. Wonderful. Okay, and now you're ready to roll. If you don't have a rolling pin at home, you can use something like a glass bottle or even a tall drinking glass would work. Just be very careful if you're going to do that. Okay, let's roll it out. Excellent, roll it out some more. If your dough is a bit warm, you can leave it. You don't have to do this straight away. And that's rolled to about 1/4 of an inch thick. So, we're going to cut out our gingerbread dough. I've got a little person cutter here, which I'm going to use to make gingerbread people. If you don't have a little person shape, then you can just use a round cutter or a glass and make faces instead. And as we cut out our dough, I'm going to tell you a little story about Palm Sunday. Thousands of people were gathering in Jerusalem, Israel's capital city, for the Passover party. The Passover party happened once every year, celebrating a long time ago when God had chosen a man to free his people from the Egyptians. When Jesus came to Jerusalem, he was riding a donkey, and he was given a king's welcome. People made a road through for him. They waved palm branches that's why we call it Palm Sunday, and some even threw their coats on the ground before him. the people shouted their party songs really, really loudly. Hosanna, save us! Many people were wondering if Jesus was going to be their new leader, freeing them from the Romans who were ruling their country. If you'd like to hear more of this story, check out Mark chapter 11 verses 4 to 10. Okay, let's get back to our gingerbread. So I've cut out my shapes. I've got my trays which I prepared earlier. These are my baking trays, and I have a baking sheet on them to help them to stop sticking. I'm going to very carefully pop my gingerbread men onto my baking sheet. Beautiful. Okay, so I have one tray. I can only actually fit 4 people onto my tray, so I'm going to have to use a few different ones. But once you've got all of them off, what you need to do then is bring the dough back together into a ball. Beautiful. Roll it up a little bit. There, get some more flour. Sprinkle again to make sure that our lovely dough doesn't stick to the surface. Bit more on top. Okay. And we're going to roll it out again and just cut out our shapes again. Okay, I finished cutting out my dough, and these are just a couple of my little gingerbread people that are going to go into the oven. The oven I have pre-baked, so I put that on before we started just so it can heat up. What I recommend to do now is to leave these to chill in the fridge for 15 to 20 minutes. And that's just so that when we put them in the oven, the butter doesn't melt and spread out everywhere, and we get very wibbly wobbly gingerbread shapes. We get nice crisp gingerbread shapes. So I'm going to go and pop mine in the fridge for about 15 minutes, and then we'll pop them into the oven. So my gingerbread men have been in the fridge chilling for about 15 minutes. Here they are, and they're just nice and firm to touch. And I'm going to pop them in the oven, and it's going to be in for about 8 to 12 minutes. So do have a look at them after 8 minutes, depending on your oven. And they will still feel a little soft when you take them out, but they'll harden as they cool down. Okay everybody, so here are just some of my lovely gingerbread men. They are all cooked, and I've let them cool down, and I think they'll taste delicious. If you want to, you can decorate them when they're cool. But what I'd love for you guys to do is to send me photos of your gingerbread man, and what questions and conversations can you ask about the story of Palm Sunday. Okay, see you next week. Bye.